For 25 years, Brightview Senior Living has been dedicated to creating an award-winning company culture so residents and families receive best-in-class services. Across our 50 communities, Brightview associates help deliver peace of mind, safety, security, transportation, daily programs, delicious food, and high-quality care if needed. Discover how our vibrant senior living communities can help you live your best life. Visit brightviewseniorliving.com to learn more. Equal housing opportunity.
Nissan's SUVs have the capabilities to transform your spirit of adventure into real-life adventure. Don't worry, the Nissan Rogue has your back. Plaid's exclusive Google built-in is your always-updating assistant to call on for almost anything. Just climb in and go. No need to connect your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are built right into the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system of the new 2024 Nissan Rogue. A Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada can elevate your adventure. Get in a Nissan SUV and go. Learn more at nissanusa.com. Did you know that when your tooth enamel is gone, it's gone forever? That's scary to think about. So up your daily regimen with Pronamel Intensive Enamel Repair Toothpaste and new Pronamel Repair Mouthwash. They work great together, penetrating deep into the tooth surface and locking in vital minerals to repair acid-weakened enamel. With new Pronamel Repair Mouthwash, you can enhance that repair beyond just brushing. So show your teeth some love with Pronamel, the #1 dentist-recommended brand for acid erosion. Buy Pronamel Repair anywhere you buy toothpaste or mouthwash. Learn more at pronamel.com.
Hey everyone, I'm Brian Austin Green.
I'm Sharna Burgess.
And I'm Randy Spelling.
And you are listening to Oldish, an iHeartRadio podcast. Hi everybody.
What's up, everyone?
Hi, everyone.
Hey Randy.
Hi.
I'm excited to be here with you, Randy, and I'm excited that we have an amazing guest today.
Me too. Speaking of our guest, there's a lot to get into. I was wondering if you have any friends, family members, people who are on the fence about drinking. I mean, I know we're sort of into the new year already. We're in February, but there's always a dry January and people go, okay, I hit it hard at the end of the year and now I'm going to dry out a little, try this thing. Do you have people who talk about that, or have you both tried that at all?
I mean, we're not big drinkers.
I'm drinking like a fish. I've been steadily drinking like a fish for years. So
He's really not. We're not big drinkers at all. But I do have friends that are like, oh, dry January, or for a purpose, they decide to go for a month clear of alcohol or 2 months clear of alcohol just for their body. But we rarely drink that. I never feel the need. Like even holiday seasons, I don't feel like it ever gets to a point where I'm like, I'm never going to drink again, or I need to detox myself. That's not it for us. But I certainly do hear the conversations of like, oh, it's January going to do dry January. I'm going to try and do it for 3 months.
yeah, I think when people get on, we've talked about it before, they get on the health kick of like, oh, it's the new year, so I'm going to start taking better care of myself, and they'll kind of jump in. So dry January makes sense. But I think then as the year kind of goes on, people tend to get back into what is their normal lives, unless they've done like some big change and they're really sticking to it. Yeah, we don't drink much, but I've definitely been on like a healthier kick. We've talked about all of that. But yeah, alcohol is an interesting thing.
Well, and I think too, as you age, I was talking to someone about this and we were laughing as we were working out. We were saying, back when I was a teenager, I would have a 40 ounce of beer, right? Or 2 40 ounces, wake up, have a greasy breakfast and feel good to go. Now, I mean, I don't drink, but it's like a piece of pizza or something. And I'll wake up and be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Not feeling my best today.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. If I do have a drink, it can take me sometimes 3 days to like feel normal again.
Yeah.
Sharna said you take ibuprofen or something.
Preventative.
At the end of the night. Preventative. Yeah.
Preventative after just one drink. Like that's where we're at, Randy.
Before going to bed, I'm just like, okay, let me just take a couple just in case, because the worst is when you wake up with that burning headache at all. Oh, it's the absolute worst. So it's like, if I can avoid that, I can my body feeling like crap the next day, I can deal with. I can kind of slow move it and get through it and eat some food and try and like balance it all out and get some juice and some good solid foods in. But that headache, I can't stand it.
That's
I
the
can't
worst.
stand it. It's debilitating for me.
So, but why the question about alcohol?
Well, because our guest today coined the term sober curious. She also wrote the book Sober Curious in 2018. Her other books include Material Girl, Mystical World, The Numinous Astro Deck, which I'm very interested in hearing about.
Yeah, so am I.
And The Sober Curious Reset. She has a new book called Women Without Kids that's out now. She has 2 podcasts.
Crazy.
And her Women Without Kids podcast features research interviews with leading authors, philosophers, healers, activists, anthropologists, and social scientists. Let's bring Ruby in and talk to her.
Ruby Warrington.
Yes.
Hi, Ruby. How
Hi,
are you?
Ruby.
Hi.
Welcome to Oldish.
Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, welcome.
Thank you for hanging with us today.
Well, thanks for having me.
Oh, is that your kitchen? That looks so
Yes.
nice.
This is my I have a 1-bedroom apartment. This is my work, kitchen, living room.
I
It's
am
functional.
just living for your color coordinated, like
That's what
in the, oh my
Yeah.
God, that's my jam right there.
Sharna,
Yes.
Sharna does
Are they
that as
books?
much as possible in
They're
her
books.
closet with her.
Oh, girl, that's speaking my language right now.
Yeah.
I love
And there's my
that.
cat. You're getting my cat in the background there
Yeah.
too.
Hi, sweetheart. I
This
love
is
that.
me. This is me, everyone.
That's
Welcome to my
perfect. This is
world.
us too.
Where are you?
I'm in Brooklyn, hence
You're
the
in Brooklyn.
tiny apartment. Yeah.
Got it.
Very Brooklyn.
Yes,
Mhm.
indeed.
I mean, are you even in Brooklyn if you actually have space, you know?
Exactly. I don't think you can call it Brooklyn.
Yeah. I lived in London for a short period of time. And I remember when I moved there from Australia to London, I was like, I'm sorry, this is the closet, right? This is not,
Yeah.
this is not the whole, oh, this is the whole apartment. I could barely fit a bed in it. It was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Then try New York and halve that, basically. But, I honestly wouldn't live anywhere else. I spent the past year and a half, well, up until September last year in Miami, in Florida.
Yeah.
And there was
nice.
space, but there just wasn't the vibe,
No.
like
Gotta have the vibe.
gotta have the vibe. Beats
Miami is a
everything.
very different energy.
Yeah.
Very
New York, for
different.
sure.
And it
Yeah.
was a great kind of sunny sabbatical post-COVID, et cetera, et cetera. But this feels like home.
So
Amazing.
Ruby, what kind of vibe do you go for, and has that changed over the years?
What kind of vibe in terms of where I want to live?
Yeah.
Yeah. Your
Yeah.
energy you love around you.
What I realized I really value, having spent that time in Florida, is really vibrant street life. Like when I moved back to New York, and London has this too, and I'm a Londoner, I'm from London. There's a sense walking around the streets that this city is being made each and every day by all of these people who live here, who are just kind of like making stuff happen. Whereas other cities in America that I've spent time in, as well as Florida, it feels much more like the culture has sort of been superimposed. Like, here is your strip mall, here is your Target, here is your this, here is your that. And of course, that's not true everywhere. But I think what cities like New York and London, which essentially is something about being walking cities, have in common is that there's this real sense of creativity, but in the broadest sense, like human beings making stuff happen, and I
love
really value that, I've realized. And for a lot of people that can be overwhelming, and they value space and they want more nature and all of those things. But I think for me, like even in my formative, youngest years, I was born in London, but grew up in Suffolk, which is a very rural county in England, which is like, the middle of the countryside. And it was great as a kid to be able to just kind of run around fields, and we lived on a river and all of this stuff. But I remember age 8 or 9 when we moved to London, just being so excited. When we moved back to London, to be around that vibe. So
yeah,
I think a city life like that, it so has to lend itself to the life that you're living. Like I remember my ex-wife and I, we were in New York for 4 months years ago when Noah was born. Noah was a year and a half, and the city just it just is not a place to raise kids. Like
Right.
it's the aisles in the grocery stores are too tiny. People are annoyed when you're taking up space with a stroller, and it's like, what do you expect me to do? I'm in a grocery store. I have to bring my baby.
Yeah.
So I've always felt like bigger cities are much more conducive of people that are single or in relationships where it's just the couple, and you enjoy going out and having people around and being surrounded by people. I know for me, I have 5 kids now. I want
Wow.
space.
Yes, you
Like,
need space.
Yeah.
I need a big car, and
Yeah.
I need land. I need and I need sort of that like kind of quiet comfort and stability. But what you were saying about like the culture in Los Angeles is very much planted in Los Angeles. It just exists. I'm born and raised in Los Angeles, and it's been the same since I was a kid. I mean, it's transformed a little bit, and it kind of changes with the times and all of that, but it's definitely not, because it's so spread out. It's definitely not as artistic as New York or London or any place like that.
Well, you know what's really interesting in terms of, not having children and people having fewer children and the population generally sort of declining, that has happened in direct correlation with more people moving to live in cities. Because when space is a premium, people have fewer children. Not only that, it becomes more expensive to have children. And so the more people who have congregated and moved towards these very dense city kind of environments and habitats to live, largely for work reasons a lot of the time, because this is a global phenomenon, you actually see the population declining as cities increase in size, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah. I never even made the connection between that correlation, but I know that cities are just booming. I mean, Manhattan has literally, it's every meatpacking district, everything that was like just the tiny part of like the industrial part of the island has become these high price living areas, and people are moving there like crazy. So can we talk about the term sober curious? Because I don't completely understand it. And I ask this of people all the time. So please explain it to me like I'm 5.
Okay. Well, it might not be relevant for a 5-year-old because you have to have some experience.
Totally.
You have to have some experience of regular contact with alcohol, probably, So the term sober curious, I came up with that term it's about 8 years ago now, to describe what was my own kind of evolving relationship with alcohol. I knew that I suspected that I was drinking more than was good for me, but I wasn't drinking in a way that looked like alcoholic drinking or problem drinking. And when I even went to a couple of AA meetings, like what I heard and saw there was just nowhere near my, regular social drinking habit. And yet I had a lot of questions around alcohol, and how much was too much, how it was really impacting me, what was the true cost of alcohol, why was it so hard to say no in some situations, all these sorts of things. And I coined that questioning being sober curious. So really, to be sober curious is just to allow yourself to question, to be curious about the way that you're interacting with alcohol. I've done quite a lot of teaching already on this subject this year. I hosted a retreat. I did a talk at Yale Law School, actually, and was just kind of questioning people, because I hadn't really considered this aspect of it, even though I've been teaching and speaking on this for a long time. But the education that we get around alcohol is, even long before we're of drinking age, is often very, very black and white. You're either a problem drinker. And if you're a problem drinker, then you're in lots and lots of trouble, or you're a normal drinker. And if you're a normal drinker, well, alcohol is part and parcel of, it's your rite of passage into adulthood. It's absolutely part and parcel of your social life, your family life, your professional life. Like, it's just this thing. And I think what I realized is that for a lot of people who don't identify as problem drinkers, or whose drinking isn't necessarily causing them the kind of problems that we think about when we think about alcoholic drinking, there is a lot of questioning, and there's a lot of gray area about what problem drinking even is. Something I like to say is that you don't have to have a drinking problem for drinking to be a problem for you. Like,
interesting. Yeah.
I think most of us who drink on a regular basis, and by that I mean anything from a couple of times a month to daily, right? will have experienced some problems in relation to our drinking. And that's actually very, very normal. And I think that most of us who've taken, periods of abstinence, maybe we've done a dry January, will have noticed there are quite a lot of benefits that come from removing alcohol from our life. And so the sober curious approach is really about empowering every individual to really kind of investigate what a healthy relationship with alcohol might look like for them. For a lot of people, that does mean removing alcohol completely because it just feels better, not because you have to, because you just decide that you want to. So yeah, that's the sober curious approach. And it's been amazing to watch that term really kind of take off, I suppose, in terms of people relating to it. The latest statistic I heard is that 1 in 4 Americans are now familiar with the term sober curious, So
that's very cool.
I think,
congratulations on that.
That's amazing.
Really cool.
Yeah.
But I think it just speaks to how normal it is to question our drinking, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so there we were, cruising through the new open-air zoo when I realized that the park was closing in like 15 minutes. Luckily, we were in my Nissan Rogue. With its powerful VC turbo engine, well, we had time to see all the animals. Whoa! And outrun a few!
Drive the Nissan Rogue.
Tired of spills and stains on your sofa? Wash away your worries with Anabay. Anabay, the only sofa that's machine washable inside and out, where designer quality meets budget-friendly prices. That's right, sofas from only $639. Anabay brings you a no-risk experience with pet-friendly, stain-resistant, and changeable slipcovers made with performance fabric, cloud-like comfort with high-resilience foam, and hypoallergenic featherless down that needs no fluffing. Their steel frame ensures longevity, and you can rearrange the modular pieces anytime. And here's the cherry on top, up to 60% off site-wide. It's backed by a 30-day satisfaction guarantee, so if you're not absolutely in love, send it back for a full refund. No return shipping or restocking fees. Every penny back. Join the revolution of easy, clean, stylish living with up to 60% off at anabay.com. That's ANABEI.com. Offers are subject to change and certain restrictions may apply.
As we wave goodbye to winter's chill, it's time to give our lawn a little love and embrace the freshness of spring. And guess what? The Home Depot's Spring Black Friday sale is here to make it all a breeze. Snag the Ryobi One Plus leaf blower for just $89 and say goodbye to tedious yard work. With a powerful 90 miles an hour of clearing power, your lawn will look spotless in a flash. And the best part? Thanks to the convenience of online shopping, you can effortlessly place your order via the app, cruise into the store for pickup, and find yourself chilling in your freshly spruced up yard in no time. Don't let this awesome deal blow away. Get your hands on the Ryobi One Plus leaf blower for only $89. Yeah, just $89. Exclusively during Spring Black Friday at the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
So where did it end up for you? You said some people it means cutting it out completely. You went on this journey of being sober curious. You did a lot of research with it. Did you decide that it's a complete cutout for you, or is it like an absolutely no alcohol, or do you every now and then, like at Christmas, partake?
So I first started questioning this seriously around 2011, 2012. And over that whole time period, I've just kind of slowly tapered off. And not necessarily with any goal in mind, just I've experimented with taking longer and longer periods of alcohol, correlating to that, really educating myself and getting very, very conscious about the actual impact of alcohol on myself, physically, mentally, emotionally, all of the things. And it sort of reached a point where I just, even on those rare occasions when I did have a drink, I just didn't really enjoy it anymore. And I actually realized in November last year, it had been a year since I'd had a drink. And so I'm a never say never sort of person, I suppose. But at this point, I just don't feel any desire for alcohol because the past handful of times I've tried it or I've had some alcohol, it just hasn't felt very nice, and it hasn't really given me the benefits or the buzz that I was looking for. Which, if you had told me, the first book, Sober Curious, is dedicated to Cocktail Girl. That used to be my name in my friend group. I was Cocktail Girl because I was always the one who could take whatever random alcohol was lying around and make something delicious, make something nice out of it.
That's amazing. Wow.
So like, if you had told Cocktail Girl that I'd be in this position now, I never would have believed me. And I also, like I said, this was never my goal. It just so happens that my evolution with it has brought me to this place where I just don't desire it anymore.
So if you were known as Cocktail Girl within your friend group and you're going through this, like, I'm going to choose to, sober curious, try it for periods of time, were they difficult conversations to have? Was that difficult to navigate? Even though it seems like you weren't necessarily struggling with addiction, like you need a drink, but you were in social situations.
That seems like the tough part for a lot of people in giving up alcohol is like, okay, well then what do I do if I'm hanging out with my friends and everybody else is having a drink?
Just go on. It's just one. How
do I handle this and not feel like I'm a crazy person?
Yeah.
Right. Yes. Very, very challenging. And one of the number one reasons I would say that stops people from kind of following their sober curiosity, because it can be really, really confronting to put yourself intentionally in the out group. A lot of us drink, actually, and a lot of us start drinking to fit in, to be one of the cool kids, to be part of the gang, right?
Yeah.
And so that kind of dynamic follows us throughout life, even when we're, far older and able to, think we're able to really determine like how we want to be spending our time, et cetera, what's cool, what's not. But no, I mean, I think partly for me, this coincided with me moving to America from the UK. And in a way, I almost got to start off with new friendships here in the US on a different footing.
Create something
which was interesting. But also, I think because the sober curious approach, because I've always stressed that this is about me and my choices, and it's not about you and your choices. And if anything, you do you, that's great. Like, have fun, do whatever. This is not about judgment on you. I'm not saying that alcohol is bad. I'm not saying that drinking is bad. This is just something I'm doing for myself. Taking that attitude has really helped. But I mean, honestly, when I first started telling my friends that this is something I was considering, the response I would get was, but you don't have a problem. You don't need to stop drinking. You only ever drink to have more fun. And I was like, yeah, well, you're not
and you make great drinks. What do you mean you're going to stop?
You're not in my head at 5 a.m. on a Monday morning, kind of still a bit hungover from Saturday night, looking at the week ahead, wondering why I did that again, that kind of thing. So yeah, I think generally people have been very respectful of it. What has happened though is that the things I enjoy in terms of my social life have shifted dramatically.
Like
I really don't enjoy parties. Like, unless there's a real specific reason, like I still love a good wedding, of course. I mean, of course, not everyone loves weddings, but I love weddings. I'm such a romantic. But like, I don't really like just big parties where there's no other activity or reason to gather apart from the drinking.
Right.
And so I much prefer seeing people one-on-one or in small groups. I love going for walks with people, coffee dates, tea dates, like all of that stuff. I actually had a really nice event or hangout last weekend. My friend had organized a little painting party, and that was really sweet. Like, it was,
that's great.
Just kind of the kind of stuff we don't do as adults.
Yeah,
we
like
substitute alcohol. When you start to remove yourself from what I call the dominant drinking culture, you start to notice how often we substitute alcohol for fun, for connection, for all the things that we actually want and desire. We kind of have alcohol almost as like a substitute or a fill-in or a reason to do it. We don't need a reason to get together and spend time with our friends, but a lot of the time the reason is let's get a drink.
Yeah, I was wondering, I saw on your Instagram that you said INFJ, and I was wondering how many people actually are maybe more introverted, sensitive, they feel deeply, and so alcohol or substances are used to mask that, to be able to deal with social settings and people. Because when you are more of a sensitive, introverted person, it's like the world comes at you and you're an exposed nerve. Did that play a
Yes.
part in it for you?
1000%. I am a natural introvert. Like, I really enjoy spending time on my own. And part of the reason I enjoy, and in fact have realized I need solitude built into my week, is that I do absorb a lot from my environment, whether it's other people's energy, whether it's just the, ideas, whatever it might be. Like, I'm a bit of a sponge. And so, yes, I realized that actually being in big group settings where there's a lot of energy, I feel absolutely exhausted. And so alcohol was a way of numbing that feeling of just being overwhelmed, and also giving me energy to kind of like get through, or sort of like be the extrovert that I wanted to be in those situations. What I've realized is in the right situations, I can be very extroverted and very social, but when I get quite overwhelmed. And I think given the bad rap, like being sensitive kind of gets a bad rap, right? A lot of the time, it's not necessarily a celebrated attribute in our world, which praises, strength and confidence and self-sufficiency and bravery and all of these things. Being sensitive often is sort of framed as being kind of weak in a way, And I think that a lot of us, high maintenance, needy, my husband hates it when I call him sensitive. He's just like, oh, stop saying that.
Especially for men,
especially for men, I think. Yes.
I was called sensitive so much growing up, right? I would cry easily. They'd say, oh, you're so sensitive. You're so sensitive. And it became, to me, a put down.
Right.
That you're insulting me by saying that. So somehow I have to stuff all of that
You don't
emotion.
mean anything great in saying that. That's not a compliment that you're giving.
You're judging me by saying that, even though someone's not leading with that. And so I would feel that, and all that sensitivity that I had, I would just stuff way, way, way down. And then, the alcohol came and substances came, and it would be, oh, here's how I can be less sensitive. I can anesthetize myself and numb myself so I could be the life of the party and not feel everyone's emotions. And at some point, when you get older or old-ish, no matter what age you are, you start to be sober curious. Is this what I want for my life? Do I want to spend all my time being numbed out?
So I suppose where I was getting to is, I think a lot of us are a lot more sensitive than we are sort of allowed to be, or have been told that it's okay to be. And the problem that I think we start to realize when we start to become old-ish, whether that's, more emotionally mature or physically just unable to kind of process alcohol in the way that we used to when we were younger, is we realize that when we have been outsourcing our confidence and our extroversion to alcohol, the cost is all of those negative side effects, which, medical science will show. I mean, to get really real about it, alcohol is the third leading cause of preventable deaths in the United States. It's connected to so many chronic health conditions, let alone just the hangovers and the general kind of icky feeling we feel after drinking. So I think it just, when perhaps it's something to do with, as we get older, there is just less time. Like, time becomes more precious. And how much time do I want to spend recovering from drinking just because I felt the need to mask or numb my sensitivity in certain situations? And actually, what might my sensitivity, what kind of gifts are also associated to that part of myself? How can I start exploring that part of myself rather than kind of numbing it out?
Oh, I love that. What are my gifts? So it's really looking at what can the gifts be of my personality when I don't numb myself.
Yes, absolutely. That's 1000% it. And I think in a way, like my move to America, my becoming sober curious, it also all really coincided. I've been working as a magazine and a newspaper journalist in the UK, had a pretty successful career, but was feeling quite just a bit of a dead end. I wasn't fulfilled, and I knew there was more. I wanted to do more. I wanted to have a more creative life, and I wanted to explore what that might be. And I think part of me realized or knew that for as long as I was using alcohol in the way that I wouldn't be able to access those deeper parts of myself, let alone the confidence, time, focus, clarity to actually be able to bring any of my talents to the fore and, you know, put them out into the world in concrete forms. So yeah, it was all very connected for me.
In many ways. I mean, you're a writer, a speaker, you have a self-publishing company, you're a manuscript doula or something like that. I mean, there's so many. You have astro decks.
Yes, I created an astrology deck which teaches you how to read your own birth chart. I mean, I have many. I have been. Okay. You know, I've had 5 books out in the past 7 years, which is pretty prolific by anybody's standards. Yes. So behind all of those hangovers was a lot of creative energy.
Yes.
And I think that actually, you know, I was there with a kind of online magazine platform called The Numinous at the exact time that astrology and modern mysticism were really starting to come much more into the mainstream. Sober Curious, as I said, has also really kind of caught a wave of people just questioning drinking and different ways to think about sobriety. And then with my latest book, Women Without Kids, there's also just this huge emerging conversation about why people are having fewer children. And so I say all this, a lot of people will tell me, oh, you're always on the zeitgeist, you're catching the wave of all these big movements. And I think part of that is my sensitivity. There's something about me and the way I see the world that when I'm really attuned, can just sort of get a sense for like, this is what we need to talk about next, you know? And I think removing alcohol has been essential to me connecting to that.
If you're looking for the most epic place on earth, let's start at the base of a massive waterfall. Then trek through the thick jungle. Then climb to the peak of a snowy mountaintop. Then once you get there, keep going. Because with intelligent 4x4 and 7 drive modes and a Nissan Pathfinder, the search is the real adventure.
Available feature. Intelligent 4x4 cannot prevent collisions or provide enhanced traction in all conditions. Always monitor traffic and weather conditions.
Tired of spills and stains on your sofa? Wash away your worries with Anabay. Anabay, the only sofa that's machine washable inside and out, where designer quality meets budget-friendly prices. That's right, sofas from only $639. Anabay brings you a no-risk experience with pet-friendly, stain-resistant, and changeable slipcovers made with performance fabric, cloud-like comfort with high-resilience foam, and hypoallergenic featherless down that needs no fluffing. Their steel frame ensures longevity, and you can rearrange the modular pieces anytime. And here's the cherry on top, up to 60% off site-wide. It's backed by a 30-day satisfaction guarantee, so if you're not absolutely in love, send it back for a full refund. No return shipping or restocking fees. Every penny back. Join the revolution of easy, clean, stylish living with up to 60% off at anabay.com. That's ANABEI.com. Offers are subject to change and certain restrictions may apply.
As we wave goodbye to winter's chill, it's time to give our lawn a little love and embrace the freshness of spring. And guess what? The Home Depot's Spring Black Friday sale is here to make it all a breeze. Snag the Ryobi One Plus leaf blower for just $89 and say goodbye to tedious yard work. With a powerful 90 miles an hour of clearing power, your lawn will look spotless in a flash. And the best part? Thanks to the convenience of online shopping, you can effortlessly place your order via the app, cruise into the store for pickup, and find yourself chilling in your freshly spruced up yard in no time. Don't let this awesome deal blow away. Get your hands on the Ryobi One Plus leaf blower for only $89. Yeah, just $89. Exclusively during Spring Black Friday at the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
Can we talk a little bit about women without kids? Because that's
Yes.
I'm curious about that as well. Where that started, what connection you have to it, all of that. Because my life, Sharna's
The opposite.
Rand's
5
like
kids.
very different.
Brian is not a woman without kids.
No, I am
It's
not.
literally the opposite in every
Right.
way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Every way.
I went from a woman without kids to a woman with 4 kids in a short period of time, and now
And
5.
Yeah.
That was a big curve, but I was always aligned with that.
Right.
But for you, was this something that you always knew? Did you always feel this for you? Was the
Yes.
path?
Yes. I mean, in the book, I remember, one of the earliest conversations I remember having with my mother when I was about 5 years old I was just baffled as to why people were so obsessed with babies. Everyone seemed to think babies were the best thing ever. And I just was really and what's so great?
Wow.
And she even said to me she remembers me saying to her at that age, if I ever have a baby, mum, I'll give it to you to look after. So it's not like at age 5 that I was thinking, what do I want to do with my life? I don't think I want to be a mother. But there was obviously something in me, even very, very young, that sort of didn't aspire to that. And that was only, became more clear as I grew. And I got married when I was 27, and immediately everyone started asking me, so when are you starting a family? And I sort of thought, well, I think I just did. That's what we did when we got married, wasn't it? But
Right. Yeah.
if you mean kids, I don't think we're going to do that. But then throughout my 20s, I really questioned this impulse in me. As everybody else questioned, why aren't you doing this? Why don't you want to do this? Isn't it time? You'll regret it if you don't. You might not feel like it now, but once it happens, you'll love it. Everyone who even
Trying to
expresses any
convince
question.
you
Oh,
that
absolutely.
you should do this.
Absolutely.
Were you an only child?
No, I have a younger brother. I have actually 2 younger brothers. And yes, my brother it's funny, he always wanted to be a dad.
Really?
And had his kids. My nephew's 8 now. So it's very interesting. As the girl, I'm the one who was supposed to desire that, right? Because I'm biologically built for it.
Right.
Whereas it was my brother who actually always really wanted to be a father. Anyway, I suppose it was, I had a huge amount of questions around this. I really, really thought there must be something wrong with me for not having this instinct, that I either was biologically sort of wired incorrectly or was just deeply damaged in some kind of a way. And yet I could never talk myself into wanting to be a mum. There are a couple of times when I came very close to sort of convincing my husband that maybe we should just go for it. Maybe everyone's right. Maybe once it happens, we'll love it. But something always stopped me. And it was only when I reached my early 40s that I sort of looked around and realized actually I knew quite a lot of other women without kids, even though I'd really always felt like I was the only one, But this woman doesn't have kids. She hasn't had kids. I wonder what their stories are. And I thought, this is something we never talk about. There's never been a forum for me to find other women without kids and hear what their stories are, And then I sort of put my journalist's hat on and zoomed out and realized that actually the global population has been declining very, very steeply in literally every country around the globe for the best part of the past century. And then I sort of thought, oh, wow, well, this is really interesting, because there are lots of conversations about the dangers of imminent population collapse. But then on the other hand, you've got all these environmentalist conversations about where there are too many people. So It just seemed like a really juicy subject. But first and foremost, the impulse to write the book came from, okay, I never wanted kids. How much of that was nature, just how I was made, and how much of that is nurture, the culture and the society and the time that I have grown up in? And what are all the different factors that have informed that decision, which for anybody is probably the most important decision you can make, whether or not to have a child, right? And given, the gendered sort of inequality that still exists around child rearing and childbearing, it is an even bigger and more life-changing decision for women. And yet still, there is this attitude that women are sort of built to be mothers. You should just do it. You'll be unfulfilled if you don't. You'll regret it when you're older. And it seemed to me like, no, this is a decision that we should be thinking about and considering and weighing really, really deeply and entering into with a full bodied, yes, this is something that I truly want for my life.
So is that a bit of like your mission now, to sort of destigmatize the situation for women that and families that don't want to have kids and don't want to do that? It seems
yes.
because it seems so judged up until this point.
It's incredibly judged. It's another thing, like, you know, alcohol and addiction. It's very, very stigmatized. And people have very strong opinions about, even though it's one of the most personal decisions that you can possibly make. Other people feel very entitled to have very strong opinions about it. Right. So what I also realized in the research I started doing, in terms of all of the, I'm going to just speak to women for the sake of this conversation. First and foremost, about 50% of women aged between 17 and 45, so women who are in the kind of, you know, fertile years, I suppose, don't have children in the United States. So that's a large segment of the population.
50%, half.
Yes, half. Given that we're starting from age 17, many of those women may go on to have children, but at any one time, there's a huge cohort of women who don't have children. And yet we're made to feel that we're the odd ones out. It's this weird, odd kind of oddball choice or oddball path. But what I realized is that, or what the research shows, is that of all of those women, about 10% are you know, childless due to infertility, have tried to have children and not been able to. About 10% are like me, never wanted it. It's an affirmative yes. And about 80% are what's called childless by circumstance. So life circumstances just haven't played out where it's felt like it's a possibility. They haven't met the right person to co-parent with. They have been, you know, wanting to invest more in their career before they get to the point where they want to have children. They're not financially able, and many other sorts of factors that influence it. But so yeah, what I realized is that there are many, many people on this path, and it is highly stigmatized, and not everybody is making a conscious choice. And so how about we start treating people with a little more kindness, a little more curiosity, a little more compassion about the different factors that have influenced people's procreative potential, you know? So yeah, and I also really wanted to create conversations between other women without kids, because I knew how valuable it's been for me to find all these other women in my life and actually feel like I had a reason to talk to them about their situation. Like, what happened? Why didn't you? How do you feel about it? How do you feel about your future? What are your plans for your future? Like, all of this stuff is really big, important stuff, but there hasn't been much of a forum for us to have these conversations before. So that was the kind of impetus behind putting this book out. Yeah.
Just to create conversation.
Yeah.
I imagine it must be really difficult to be a woman and be at an age where you feel so pressured to have to do something that is incredibly life-changing, and maybe circumstances are such where you might not have the right partner. It might be scary to do it on your own. You don't know if this is even something that you want to do, but you feel that friends, family are just pushing so hard for their own agenda. I mean, what do you say to women who come to you and go, "Oh, thank you, and I don't know what to do. I really don't know the right answer." Is there a
go-to response?
Childbearing curious, or you know, they're sober curious. Is there sort of a curiosity list of questions that someone can ask?
Well, in the book, it opens with a chapter called The Motherhood Spectrum, where I talk about how, rather than it being this very binary, yes, I definitely want kids, or no, I definitely don't, for the majority of people, and there have even been times during my life when I would put myself here as well, for the majority of people, there's some ambivalence or some kind of questioning. And that questioning will be very much informed by our life circumstances. So the family and culture that we were raised in, the religious programming that we might have received, our financial situation, our relationship status, our career goals and aspirations, our creative goals and aspirations, et cetera, et cetera. All of these things are going to influence not only our feelings about becoming a parent, but our capacity to take on the vast responsibility of raising a child or children, right? Yeah. So first of all, I kind of offer people this concept to say, there's nothing wrong with you if you haven't been able to make that decision easily, or if you're in a deep period of questioning. That's actually, I think, very normal. And at the end of that chapter, I do offer a sort of a questionnaire, which just gives people some questions to kind of dig into to help them maybe get some more clarity about their own feelings. Because the other thing, and this is very similar with the So Be Curious path, when there's a lot of external messaging, whether it's from family and friends, whether it's just from media, you know, images that we see in the media about like what a family, quote unquote, looks like, et cetera, et cetera. It can be very difficult to pass out our own innermost feelings about something and the kind of societal expectations that we're having projected onto us a lot of the time. So yeah, I mean, with anything, with this conversation in particular, I do think it's about vocalizing and being in conversation about it, whether that's with friends, whether that's with family, whether that's with a therapist, like really like take time to get into how you truly feel about it. I mean, the fact is, yes, a lot of people are having a really hard time finding someone they want to raise children with. Like this is a big issue, particularly for like millennials and Gen Zs, you know. It's not, I think it's quite widely reported that there's a bit of a sort of dating crisis happening and people are just
swiping
very hard.
Not
swiping
working
is not
that
swiping
well.
is not really conducive, I don't think, to meeting the kinds, you know, forming the really kind of like deep, intimate and vulnerable connections with people that I form the ideal kind of basis for embarking on that path together. And then of course, particularly for Gen Zs, the oldest of whom are around 27 now. So definitely coming into this life stage where you're really kind of the time is now sort of thing. I call some among this cohort childless by climate change, because for their generations, the looming threat of climate change is actually very, very real. And there's a lot of questioning about the ethics of bringing children into the world for as long as governments and industry refuse to really truly, you know, enact policy that about how we make and consume energy on this planet. Like there's definitely that fear for the younger people too.
What would you say is a great response or like something? Because I say this because I've had people ask me even on my Instagram when I've just opened up for general questions. And it's someone that's in a family and within their culture, it's like you're a woman, you make babies. But they don't want to do that. They want to go to law school, or they don't even know if they ever want to have kids. They don't want to settle down and have babies right now, maybe not ever. But there's so much pressure from their family being like, what do you mean? This is what we do. This is who we are. How can they approach that subject with them? How do they not fall into guilt and then end up doing it for all the wrong reasons? Because I think that does happen to people a lot of the time. They get pushed into a corner and they end like to women. Sorry. I think they end up having babies because they think they're just supposed to, or their family put the pressure on them. Culturally, they're meant to, whatever, continue the name. And then what? So what's a great way for them to start that very difficult conversation with their family?
I think this is obviously going to be very individualistic because it really depends on how freely you can speak to your family and how the level of depth you're able to actually have in conversation with your family. I think actually before even starting those conversations, finding role models who are living the kind of life that you might aspire to for yourself, whether or not they have children, and just kind of finding role models to look to of other people who are modeling, you know, the sort of life you would like to have. Finding community, even if it is just like an Instagram community or a Facebook group or something like that, where you can speak to other people who are having maybe some of these same conversations, just so you can be reminded that it's okay to have questions, even if it is just questions. Do I want this? You know, not necessarily I definitely don't want this. Whatever ways that you can find to remind yourself that it is valid for you to be asking these questions. And once you kind of feel shored up in that, then go have the conversation with your family. If you think to the degree that you think they're going to be open to hearing from you, it might just be that it gets shut down straight away. And that's obviously a very, very unfortunate situation. But I think this is also about like, this isn't a decision that we're just making on behalf of ourselves. This is a decision that inherently involves another human being, i.e. the child that may or may not come into the world. So if your reasons genuinely are, I don't think, for whatever reason, I have the capacity to be a parent or to raise a child. Maybe it's because I have other ambitions for myself. Maybe it's because I have mental health issues. This is something I'm hearing more and more, you know, people really being aware of yeah, actually, I have a lot of anxiety. I fear that may be exacerbated in a parenting role, and I'm going to not put myself or my potential child through that, and making a choice from that place. So I think reminding yourself as well of like, this is actually one of the only decisions you can't unmake. And so making that decision because somebody else wants you to, not only is it going to be damaging you, it's going to be damaging that potential child as well. And so holding on to that for yourself, as hard as it might be to go against parental and cultural and kind of wider familial expectations. This is why I think finding role models, finding other people who you can really kind of like look to for support, just to kind of, help you kind of form your own strong sense of self around this decision, I think is really, really important. And that's another reason I wanted to write the book, in a way, just to say it's okay to question this. This is probably the one decision to not enter into lightly, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's really interesting in you saying that is it reminds me, you know, sometimes finding role models, as important as it is for you personally, I think it can be so helpful in somebody dealing with a situation with people that aren't familiar with that situation. So if I could use you as an example when I'm speaking about it, then people can look at you and they go, oh, okay, yeah. So it's not just that my son is insane or my daughter's insane and doesn't want to do it. There are other people, you know, that have done incredibly well and feel the exact same way.
Exactly. And I mean, I don't know this. I don't know for sure because I'm not a parent, but I think that deep down, what parents want is for their children to be happy, right?
Sure.
And so I think if you can somehow connect on that level and just remind your parent that really this is what's going to make me happy, because sometimes I think a lot of that pressure can come from, I don't think you're going to be happy. I think you're going to be unfulfilled. And that might be
lonely. What about when you're old?
What about when you're old? I love having you around now. What are you going to do when you're my age? Like, but
it's
I
their
think
own fears.
Also, and again, reminding especially mothers who might be putting that pressure on, Mum, my generation has had different opportunities to yours in terms of finding fulfillment, in terms of finding community, in terms of creating financial security for myself. You know, that's a difficult conversation to have too. But it's also very, very true. Like, aging will look very different for me than it did for my mother, who never had an opportunity to go to college or have any kind of meaningful career. When people say to me, who will look after you when you're old, I say, well, my 401k. Well, thanks.
Right. You're right.
Yeah. You know,
right.
It's like my mom didn't have that opportunity, and lots of women of her generation didn't have the opportunity to create financial stability for themselves. So
they're operating from a different place and a different belief system because of what they have experienced in their lives, and messaging that. I want that list. I want those various lists, because I think, look, I coach people daily, and I think one of the biggest barriers that people have when setting boundaries, when communicating with people, saying something that is difficult, is not knowing the language to use, not knowing a starting place. And just hearing you say that, Ruby, I could feel myself take a deep breath and go, oh, right there. If I just had that, then I could go to my mom or go to, you know, this person who's really pressuring me and have this conversation. But I need a starting place. Yeah. Is that in the book?
Well, there was one review that came out, and she put the line in. She's like, I read this book to the sound of many pennies dropping. And that was music to my ears, because I thought, yes, that is that's like giving her the aha moments, the little realizations that she can then apply to her own situation and bring into these conversations to explain not even her decisions, but her questions, to explain why she's asking these questions. Mum, I'm wondering about this though. Can you see that from my perspective? But what about this though, Mum? You know? So yes, there's lots of, I don't provide scripts. I don't like offering too much kind of prescriptive content in my books, because I am very much about, I want to give you all the information to because this especially is a very, very individualistic situation, right? I want to empower people through education to arrive at their own conclusions. I don't think it's my place to say, you should say this, then say that. So
right.
But I think you are offering a lot of that, right? I mean, you're offering a way just by sharing this message, just by taking a look at what it feels so pressured and constricted, and opening up space to have the conversation, to ask questions that are curious, such as, well, what about this? What about, why does it have to be this way?
We talk about that all the time, the three of us, about norms and what was the norm then compared to what it is now. And we have all of these examples to show, and you are one of them. But it's, you know, in the talk of marriage, it's always been the norm of like, oh, you find somebody, you get married, you have kids. Like there's sort of a script of doing it. And then you have couples like Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn who have just completely broken the mold on needing to get married and do it that way. And then it forces people to look at it in a different way. And it's hard though. It's blazing trails, like, you know, constructing a new norm. And that's what we're doing, which is, it's not easy. But what you're doing is amazing. I love the fact that you've made the choice of saying, okay, I'm going to just educate people as much as possible. I'm not going to, like you said, I'm not going to give them a script. I'm not going to try and, because every situation is, they're all different. Everybody has their own differences and things going on. So I just want to give them as much information as possible, so then they can make their decisions there on their own, but an educated decision.
Yeah. And it's very interesting what you said about marriage. I actually think that, and there's already so much conversation around this subject, you know, with conversations about polyamory and kind of like intentional communities. And I just think we're going to see people forming families in so many different ways in the future. And I think that's a really positive and exciting thing, you know?
I love that. Like I always say, like, I'm excited by the change and the growth of things, but so many people, especially from the older generation, they're very hesitant to see any change, and they feel like change is a bad thing, and like, oh, you're going against what are the norms of society and how it's supposed to work. And it's like, it's a totally different time. It's a totally different group of people. And, you know, people argue there's so many more people kind of coming out and, you know, and calling themselves transgender or gay or anything compared to before. And it's like, well, the difference from before is that now people have the space to do that. And it's much more accepted than it used to be. It's not that now is a different time than it was back then. It's just necessarily with people. It's just that people feel more freedom of being who they are now.
Right. And that's hard-won freedom. There have been multiple civil rights movements that have made those freedoms possible over the past century, right? And so I think we're in the way that people are living lives, making decisions that go against those very deeply ingrained cultural norms. I think we're seeing the results of all of those revolutionary kind of movements that happened in the 20th century, you know, whether it's gay rights, whether it's women's rights. And whether it's, you know, civil rights in terms of race as well. Like, I just think we're starting to live into the potential of those times now. And yes, we're also seeing the backlash, and we're seeing a real kind of, you know, let's clamp down. This is dangerous. This is going to like
fear in the resistance to
fear in the resistance. I mean, I don't know if we can go here, but it's nothing scary.
You can go anywhere
you already mentioned astrology, right? So some people might know what I'm talking about, but Pluto in astrology is the planet of, you know, real kind of like deep transformation. It's just spent 20 years in the sign of Capricorn, which is kind of like government and politics and business and patriarchy. And it's going into the sign of Aquarius, which is society.
Yes.
So you do know about this. Great.
Yes.
So literally last week, we had this shift of Pluto going into Aquarius. That for me is transformation of society. And I think we're really, like I said, just going to see very, very innovative and interesting ways that people are choosing to live, choosing to make family, etc. And I think that people questioning and bringing children into the world more intentionally. I'm also in no way, shape or form am I trying to tell anyone don't have kids. If anything, I would love to see it easier for people to have more kids if they want to, you know?
But be intentional.
Yes.
Conscious.
Make this
aware.
a choice that you're making, because this is like what you want to be your life's work. You know, raising children is life's work. And so yeah, I think that, I hope that the message that comes from the book is not everybody should stop having kids. Not having kids is great. No, not at all. It's like having kids is really precious. And the more intentional we can be about that, the better.
I love that.
Yes.
You know a spot, but not just a spot, the spot. Actually, with the 2023 Nissan Frontier, you know a bunch of them. But the key to these great spots? Being able to reach them in the first place. Your spot is out there. Find your Frontier in the 2023 Nissan Frontier with standard 310 horsepower, advanced tech, and 281 pound-feet of torque.
Tired of spills and stains on your sofa? Wash away your worries with Anabay. Anabay, the only sofa that's machine washable inside and out, where designer quality meets budget-friendly prices. That's right, sofas from only $639. Anabay brings you a no-risk experience with pet-friendly, stain-resistant, and changeable slipcovers made with performance fabric, cloud-like comfort with high-resilience foam, and hypoallergenic featherless down that needs no fluffing. Their steel frame ensures longevity, and you can rearrange the modular pieces anytime. And here's the cherry on top, up to 60% off site-wide. It's backed by a 30-day satisfaction guarantee, so if you're not absolutely in love, send it back for a full refund. No return shipping or restocking fees. Every penny back. Join the revolution of easy, clean, stylish living with up to 60% off at anabay.com. That's ANABEI.com. Offers are subject to change and certain restrictions may apply.
As we wave goodbye to winter's chill, it's time to give our lawn a little love and embrace the freshness of spring. And guess what? The Home Depot's Spring Black Friday sale is here to make it all a breeze. Snag the Ryobi One Plus leaf blower for just $89 and say goodbye to tedious yard work. With a powerful 90 miles an hour of clearing power, your lawn will look spotless in a flash. And the best part? Thanks to the convenience of online shopping, you can effortlessly place your order via the app, cruise into the store for pickup, and find yourself chilling in your freshly spruced up yard in no time. Don't let this awesome deal blow away. Get your hands on the Ryobi One Plus leaf blower for only $89. Yeah, just $89. Exclusively during Spring Black Friday at the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
I want to ask you, because you say that you're very in tune and you pick up on these things, your sensitivities and what comes to you and what you end up writing about, is that I know this is just your new book that you've just released, but is there anything that you're picking up now that you think might be your next adventure to write about and to dive into?
Well,
Of course there is. I could see it.
Exactly.
Well, no, I was thinking about it because I love that your show is called Oldish. I think that old age is going to look completely different in 20 years' time. And I'm very interested I can already feel the bubblings of, in the same way that we've had all these movements kind of dismantling or shining a light on all these isms that have categorized people and oppressed people in various ways. I think ageism is ripe for that kind of attention. I think ageism is the one form of discrimination that every human being is guaranteed to experience in our lives. It's scary as hell. You know, I'm petrified to age and to be old. And at the same time, like, what a privilege to age and be old.
Right,
so
absolutely.
I'm really interested in that. And I love that your podcast is called Oldish, because that's kind of it. That's part of it, you know? What does it even mean to be old?
Right.
Yeah, we need that work, Ruby. We need that to come out to the world.
Yeah, we do.
Please
dive into that.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for being on here. Thank you for the work that you're doing and giving people permission to be curious about things and have these conversations where there could be a lot of pressure and stigma around. You're welcome anytime. How can people find you?
I'm on Instagram intermittently at Ruby Warrington, and my website is just rubywarrington.com. That has details about my book coaching and manuscript work and other projects and events and retreats. I have a Women with Their Out Kids retreat coming up at the end of March. at Kripalu in Massachusetts, which is a big retreat center in Massachusetts. So yeah, but
Amazing.
that's all on my Instagram.
Amazing. And people can listen to you as well. You have 2 podcasts of your own, right?
Well, there's a Sober Curious podcast and a Women Without Kids podcast. They're both currently on hiatus while I kind of catch a breath. But yes, the back catalogue for both of those shows is there if people are interested in these subjects.
Amazing. Ruby, thank you so much. It's been so wonderful talking to you.
Thank you, Ruby.
It's been so great meeting you all. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Bye, Ruby.
Bye.
Wow, what a cool conversation.
We speak about legacy here all the time. What an amazing legacy she is leaving. Like, she is just absolutely trying to blaze the trail as far as creating conversation and normalizing things and making it okay to live in a way that for so long has felt judged and different. I think it's beautiful what she's doing.
I want to pick up one of those decks too. Because I don't know about you. Everyone is always asking me questions about astrology. Well, what's your this?
What's your rising and what's your, right. I don't know.
I can't, for some reason, I could go deep into research. I cannot hold those elements. I can't remember. So if I have a deck where I could, it's sort of like a astrology for dummies. I'm sure it's not that, but I need that to educate myself more on astrology.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious to get her deck as well. That would be super fun.
Maybe Ruby should have Astrology Curious.
Maybe she should. Yeah, that could be. I think we're all.
Let's reach out to her when this is done.
Like your next book title. We've got it. Right? Yeah, we've got it.
Like all my t-shirt ideas. Here's a t-shirt that has to happen.
It simply must. It simply must.
Well, thank you everyone for joining. What a great episode.
Yeah, great episode. I hope this episode was as cool for people to listen to as it was for us to listen to and be a part of. I hope it was helpful. We love the fact that you all are here and you listen to us, and we try and bring you as much information as possible in an entertaining and fun way. And I have 2 amazing co-hosts that just never cease to amaze me in the things that you guys think about and the way you conduct yourselves. Super impressive. I love you both. I love all of you for listening. Thank you.
Bye, you guys.
Bye, you guys. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Yes, you guys are amazing. Make sure you guys go and follow us on Instagram at @oldishpod. And you can also go and leave us a message at our own hotline, which is 855-OLDISH3.
Make sure and write us a review. Leave us 5 stars if you loved it. Leave us 5 stars if you didn't.
We love 5 stars. We love 5 stars.
Yeah. We like 5 stars.
Yeah. See you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See you next week, everyone.
For 25 years, Brightview Senior Living has been dedicated to creating an award-winning company culture so residents and families receive best-in-class services. Across our 50 communities, Brightview associates help deliver peace of mind, safety, security, transportation, daily programs, delicious food, and high-quality care if needed. Discover how our vibrant senior living communities can help you live your best life. Visit brightviewseniorliving.com to learn more. Equal housing opportunity.
Does money stress you out? Let Facet flip your financial chaos into clarity.
Finding Facet immediately put us at ease.
Facet's innovative approach to financial planning ensures your money works as hard as you do, enabling members to experience the joys of having your finances in order.
And that makes us Facet for life now, I guess.
Visit Facet.com, FACET.com to learn more. This ad is sponsored by Facet. Facet Wealth is an SEC registered investment advisor. This is not an offer to buy or sell securities, nor is it investment, legal, or tax advice. These testimonials are from current Facet members who are not compensated. All opinions are their own and not a guarantee of a similar outcome.
Life is filled with unexpected costs. It's only human to want to keep things simple. Introducing the new TD Clear credit card with no late fees, no interest, and just a simple monthly fee. To learn more about credit costs and terms, call 1-844-TD-CLEAR. TD Bank. Unexpectedly human.